Hey there guys, today we're taking a look at Dirty Bomb running on the i5-1135G7. Now this free-to-play shooter is not able to really run too well at 1080p at the lowest possible settings right here. And that's a bit unfortunate, but the game itself has never really been an optimized game for the most part. It is running with the DX11 renderer, and it was because DX9 was kind of giving me some issues. I don't really know what it had to do with. It was just like a noticeable like 1% low issue that I mean, the 1% lows right now don't look good for sure, and they're the biggest issue here, but they were very, very pronounced at DX9, and I think it's just that this APU does not really support DX9 properly. I've ran into similar DX9 issues before with other games, so I'm guessing it's just something to do with the chip. Maybe it's just an API that's too old for it to have actual proper support. Like, who at Intel is really testing these with DX9 games, you know? I mean, DX9 at this point is just ancient, so it makes sense that it just would not run properly, but I'm very disappointed to see the performance of this game at 1080p, considering it is a free-to-play shooter that is over a half-decade old at this point. These 1080p numbers are just very rough. It makes it very hard to aim in such a fast-paced shooter like this, where as you start to pan around, if those 1% lows, those frame times are just fluctuating like crazy, it's going to make aiming extremely difficult. So it's just one of the issues of trying to play a game like this on a chip like this at settings that it really just cannot handle. Fortunately, 720p at least manages to smooth out those 1% lows problems for the most part. There will still be instances where those 1% lows will occasionally drop here and there, but it's really a much smoother experience at 720p with the lowest possible settings. Now, there is headroom here for you to adjust the settings, but it's a competitive shooter, and I feel like, why would you do that? You know? Like, why would you turn up the settings for Dirty Bomb when you can just maximize your FPS by setting everything to the lowest? I mean, when you're on a system like this, you pretty much need to squeeze out every FPS possible if you're playing competitive shooters, because there will be people that are running the game at 150 hertz, you know, 240 hertz. Anything crazy like that, people are going to be running it at, and that's going to be a disadvantage towards you. So you're going to need to squeeze out as much performance as possible, reduce your input lag as much as possible to try to keep up. So for a game like this, I really would not turn up the settings. I tried, you know, messing around with them, but really for the most part, I just kept coming back to the lowest possible settings, because the 1% lows are the thing that suffers the most. And if you can keep that consistent, you're going to have an easier time playing the game. For competitive shooters like this, I normally like to actually see, you know, better FPS than this, and especially at 1080p. 1080p is like the baseline that I want to see. Unfortunately, we cannot hit that, and even with the lowest settings, the performance is just not good enough. So I would say 1080p out of the question, 720p well within playable territory. You can have a good time here. It's one of those games where the engagements aren't going to be super long range, where you're going to need the higher resolution. It's nice to have 1080p for sure, but it's not something that is going to completely kill the gaming experience for you. 720p is doable here. Overall, really, if resolution is all you care about, then I guess don't download it. But if you just care about the FPS and the performance, 720p is the way to go, and you're going to have a pretty decent time.